All right, everyone, we are here with athletes.org today. I am super excited. I'm going to let them give an intro in a second, but we got some good things on the docket. We're going to talk about how they're helping athletes, what's going on. We might talk about Alex Cooper. I don't know, might get brought up because that's big in the news right now, and definitely talking about the recent house settlement as well. So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Sure. Zoe, you got it. You can go first.
Sounds good. So I'm Zoe Schweitzer. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I did gymnastics at Ohio State for 3 years, medically retired going into my senior year, finished that year out coaching, got my master's from the school, worked at a few different spots within the university, marketing, Learfield, and then came over to athletes.org and now am living in Atlanta.
Yeah. And I'm Shakeel Rashad, originally from Jacksonville, Florida. Grew up, ended up going and playing football at North Carolina. And then after that, bounced around and I feel like saw the sports industry from a lot of different perspectives. So spent 18 months, so like a year and a half, whatever it was, with the Texans, came back, coached at North Carolina, and then worked at like software place called Teamworks, if anyone's familiar with it, like selling software into college athletics, and then got out of there and ended up launching UNC's collective. And now I'm over here on the AO team too.
UNC is big in the news right now too.
Yeah.
We
We've
got all
seen
the
a lot of news coming out of there.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it
Awesome.
seems like the news on a lot of sports is about them being super successful, and the only news they're getting out of football is like not about the field. So,
at least you got some good stuff going on instead of
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's great. So tell me a little bit about athletes.org and just the background and everything else. So why don't we start with that?
Sure. Yeah. Athletes.org is a players association for college athletes. And I think like there's a million different things we do, and I'd love to talk about each and every one of them. But at the core of it is trying to get athletes a voice in what the future of college athletics looks like. There hasn't been really one central players association entity, like anything like that, that's sitting there advocating for athletes and what they want, athletes holistically, that exists outside of the NCAA structure. And that's just important because it's something that, it's just not held accountable to the system that is kind of overseeing it already. And so AO has kind of created that. And what we're doing is collecting voices from athletes, we're organizing them, educating them, and then getting their voices injected into the conversation. And along the way, like because we get to hear from athletes what they're challenged with, what they're hoping to get out of their college athletic experience, we can also offer a bunch of really cool resources. So athletes come to AO today for things like contract reviews, background checks run on people they're working with, mental health resources, all kinds of things that are just there for them to tap into as we're kind of working towards a larger goal of getting them a seat at the table.
Awesome. And then, Zoe, I guess I'll kind of gear this one towards you, but obviously recruiting has changed exponentially, even like going into next year. I can't even imagine what the next 5 years are going to look like. But what are like the biggest two differences you've noticed that athletes need to be aware of right now in regard to recruiting process specifically?
Yeah, I feel like that's good. I wouldn't necessarily say differences, but I would emphasize on choosing a school for the school because coaches can change. And I know there's a lot of other factors like money. This school may be offering you X amount, another school may be offering you more than that, but the other school may be a better fit for you, and just making sure you're making the best decision for where you want to be long term. So whether that's the NFL, the NBA, or you want to go to a university that has the major that you want for the career that you want to get into. I feel like that's the main thing that was top of mind for me.
Awesome. And yeah, I mean, it's funny because obviously we've all talked internally, but when it comes to alignment, those are like really big things that we align with you guys on, as far as like making sure athletes have a voice and putting them first. And then also another part with the recruiting process is picking the school for the school, because that's your degree at the end of the day. You could have so many things happen where, I mean, you had to medically retire. So, your sport might not necessarily always be there. We hope it is, but at some point you want to make sure that you're making the right decision on that.
I guess I'll jump in. One other thing, I feel like I don't talk about this enough, but going into my junior year in high school, my coach actually that I committed to switched over to the admin side at Ohio State. And then we hired in a new head coach. It was her first time coaching. And lo and behold, that year I had a season-ending surgery that was a 12-month recovery for my shoulder. And, I'm thankful that she had trust and faith in me and still signed me on, I still signed, what was it, my NLI. But again, I was happy that I still chose Ohio State because no matter who the coach was, I'm like, I'm still going to love the school.
Yeah. Awesome. And then how did you kind of, I guess maybe this is more for Shaq, but how did you, start this? What were your main motivators? What was the mission behind athletes.org, and kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I wasn't the one that actually did the starting. I've been here since really, I think day 3.
Oh, okay. Who did the starting? I don't even know.
Yeah, it was Brandon Copeland and Jim Cavall founded AO.
Okay, cool.
and it was actually really interesting how it came together. Like so I didn't start myself, but I was here long enough to hear the story. But Jim came over. That's always good. Exactly. Yeah. So Jim came over from Influencer. If anyone's familiar with that, the software company sells the NIL management to schools. And that's where we met. I was on the team. So Teamworks acquired Influencer. I moved over to that team. I was working there with Jim really closely. And through all that, we were talking with ADs, general counsels, conference commissioners every day, just about their NIL strategy, pains they were feeling, all those different things, right? And throughout that process, you start to realize, man, there's a lot going on for athletes to manage right now. This is really different from when I played, different from when Jim played. And at that same time, Brandon Copeland, our now CEO, he's finishing up his time in the NFL. So he played 10 years in the NFL. In his off seasons, he was actually going and teaching financial literacy classes at Penn. I don't know who does that in their free time.
Yeah, but I love it. Yeah.
And so it's by some way, shape, or form, I don't know exactly how the meeting happened, but Jim and Cope end up meeting, and Jim's there talking about all the issues that he's recognizing, seeing happening in college athletics for athletes. And Cope at the time is in the NFL, and he's an NFLPA player rep. And he's like, the NFLPA has an answer for that. The NFLPA has an answer for that. And so those two kind of problem solution came together and were able to found AO. And then I joined the team, I think day 4 or something like that is really how I got involved. But the story really is.
That's why you were around to hear the story.
Exactly. And I think the founding of AO is what's really cool is both of them former college athletes. Cope played football at Penn. Jim played baseball at Montevallo. So it's 2 former college athletes with empathy and understanding for what athletes are going through now, and an understanding of what the solution could look like, and kind of the idea to go build it.
Awesome. And then can you guys talk a little bit about, I know you touched a little bit on the offerings that you kind of have for athletes. And I know that is a little bit seasonal as far as what people need at different times. But do you want to highlight anything in particular that's in season right now, I guess, that you guys are kind of focusing on for student athletes? And then what is kind of your next big step for the fall?
Zoe, feel free to jump in with any other thoughts. I think one that's really seasonal right now that we're seeing a lot of is that contract review. And so what we have is and just to give the full story and the context of it, I don't think this will be a surprise to listeners, but right now, how settlement gets settled, and now schools are eligible to share revenue with their athletes. Obviously, contracts will come with that. And these contracts are long in some cases. They use big, confusing legal words in some cases. And a lot of athletes don't have agents to review them. When people think about NIL, sometimes you're thinking about it on ESPN, or you're thinking about it what you see in the news. We're talking about the top 1%, 2%, 3% of college athletes there. It's talking about people making millions of dollars and all that. That's not everyone. And so everyone doesn't have a team to go review their contract and someone to negotiate and all that for them. What AO has built out in our registry that right now is very much in season is the ability to go in at any point for a member, go to our agent registry or go to our legal registry, and you can connect with someone for free in there. All of the verified partners in there have agreed up to 5 pro bono hours from for any AO member. So right now, let's say you got your contract from the school and you don't know what the heck it says, which is totally fair because you're not in law school. You're not supposed to know what it says. You can go to AO right now, click on it, reach out to an agent, and they will review that for you for free and give you any edits and any ideas and thoughts that may be along with it. And let's say you do choose to continue working with that person, you can continue that. Or if you want to work with an agent, we have a registry of those too. And a lot of those have been vetted and verified where we run a background check on them through our third-party partner to make sure that they're doing business above board and not overcharging people, doing anything crazy. So really, it's a safe way for them to feel confident in the contracts they're signing. And that is very seasonal right now because it was, awesome. Prior, it was some athletes were getting these contracts, but now a lot more will be because of the house settlement.
Okay, cool.
I guess one thing I'll jump into, I know you guys probably feel the same way with this, but seasonal, I feel like athletes always come to us with random things, and they may want to get into real estate. They may need a brand mentor. They just may need a career mentor, or may need a job for the next step. So our resources, we just have tons of resources that we can, send them to the right place, or we have a connection that we can connect them with in the network, and then they can connect them with someone that can help them. So really just making sure that we're, I don't know what word I'm trying to use. Yeah, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but
I know what you mean though. It's like we're there in the big moments. Like it's
yeah,
like right
things
now
like
is much.
other
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, as much as I'm thinking about the ones that are getting the contracts, like another big season right now is like people graduating and trying to figure out what's next, and we're connecting them with mentors in a lot of cases too.
Yep, for
That's
sure.
great. And then Zoe, for you, like what drew you to joining the organization and how did you kind of end up here?
Yeah, definitely. So I went to the first NIL summit with Ohio State back in 2021, and I met Jim there. We had a really good conversation and just stayed in contact. I went to the next summit as well, and I actually got in the Meta Empower program. It was the first one, Meta Empower 2.0, for specifically female athletes, and I met Dave, who is now our COO on the team as well. So stayed in contact with both of them. Once I moved back to Pittsburgh after grad school, I was just connecting with Dave. He's kind of like a mentor to me, and ended up coming over to AO. Timing worked out perfectly, and it was a great fit for me.
Awesome. See, for any athletes listening, networking is actually really important. So make sure you do that. You could end up with your first job. So
Exactly.
yeah. Awesome. And then I guess since you guys are on the forefront of it a lot more than we are, but let's talk high level. What are like the top 2 takeaways for this house settlement that people need to know? And how is it kind of impacting everything? We'll start with the two points that you think everyone needs to know.
The 2 points that everyone needs to know, I think step 1 is just like make sure you understand how this impacts you. And for everyone, it's going to be a little different, right? And we learned that because we were at AthleteCon last week, like in real time, sitting there with athletes as this news dropped. And there were questions, there was confusion, there was worry. Like there's a lot going on, right? Depending on who you are, this may mean that, okay, now like maybe my roster spot is gone, maybe I'm staying. It could mean maybe I'm making more money, maybe I'm not. It could mean my sport is in jeopardy. It's different from everyone. And I think that that the part that is, I don't want to say scary, but like the part that is concerning, the part that I think about often is we just have to make sure everyone knows what situation they're in. Like you would hate for someone right now to be in a position where at their current school, maybe they're losing their roster spot. And maybe there's an opportunity to go play somewhere else, but if they don't know that their roster spot's in jeopardy right now, they don't know how to find that next best opportunity. So I think that the number one thing I would say is make sure that you understand the implications of this for yourself. We're fielding a lot of questions on that right now from our own members. And then the number 2 thing, I don't even know. Like, I honestly think that like number 1 is so far and away and number 1 for me. Like, just make sure you understand. Because even right now, I'll give you a great example. Like, there are a lot of people that, for some people, like they're like, oh my gosh, like I play football. This means I'm gonna like so much money. But like, you may not know that. Well, depending on your conference, maybe your conference opted out, or hey, depending on your school, maybe you're not gonna make much money. It's not a minimum threshold. Or shoot, maybe your roster spot will be gone, right? And so I think that for just a lot of people, it's make sure you really understand the situation so you can make the best decision for yourself.
And I'm assuming that you guys are fielding a lot of those questions and trying to help people. I mean, I'm sure you're trying to understand it yourselves, but also trying to help people understand it as well, right?
Absolutely. We thankfully we have all those lawyers and attorneys I mentioned you can reach out to. We've got ones too. They're the ones reading through those 76 pages.
Yeah. I'm glad that this isn't like a core competency of our business, because I'd be overwhelmed and inundated with all the information going in right now. So yeah, power to you guys. And then I've actually gotten this question a couple of times, so I'm going to ask it on here. What does this mean for like the whole core of Title IX, and how is that going to play into this as far as like the money's concerned? Does it still get split 50-50 to each side? Like what's that impact happening right now, I guess?
And I think this is where, and I hate to like feel like I'm like dodging things or anything, and I truly am not, but like it depends on who you ask, right? Like if there's some departments right now that may be thinking, okay, this means money from the school has to be split down the middle. Other people could be thinking, okay, well, this means that we have to offer the same opportunity to make money to each department. And this happened, like I happened to be an influencer with Jim in 2020 going into 2021 when NIL went, and it was the same question then. It was like, well, does this mean that we have to offer the same resources to all athletes, or the same amount of money has to make it to all athletes? And that's been a different answer when you go department to department, general counsel to general counsel. And I think that right now there are a lot of questions about that. And I'm sure that coming out of NACDA over the next couple of days, there will be maybe a general sentiment that comes out of it, but all those ADs, commissioners, like all those folks are in a room right now in Orlando, probably asking these same questions and coming up with different answers.
Yeah. And I would imagine that to your original point of people needing to know, this is the chance for the student athletes that having to advocate for themselves and asking those questions themselves, whether it's to the school or to you guys or somebody else in the mix, right?
Right. And there are questions sometimes where we'll get questions in and we'll say, hey, like, we can't give that specific answer. That's going to be specific to your school. Here's what you may be able to ask, and here's who you may want to go ask on campus about that.
Yeah. Is it usually, I know the answer is going to be, it depends, but in general, is it usually like somebody in the compliance office, or is it an athletic director, or who do you see most of the time?
I think compliance office is a great place to start, right? A lot of the enforcement, a lot of the rules around how settlement's going to run through them anyway. So compliance office is a great place to start. I think that's an incredible place to start, unless it's depending on roster spots and things like that, right? Then if it's something that's going through your coach, maybe that's the person you need to go have a conversation with too. And I don't take those lightly. Like, I sit here now, 10, 12 years, whatever it is, removed from college athletics. And I think, I'll just go sit down with my coach and talk about it. If you would ask 19-year-old me to go have like this conversation with my coach, like, I'd be shaking. I know.
That's all I know. That's all I keep thinking about. Zoe, I'm assuming you're the same position. Like, I would not want to be like having to deal with this in a sense.
Yeah.
Those end of the year meetings, I would sweat and I wouldn't sleep for months. Like, for months I wouldn't sleep. So, yeah.
It's too good.
We can help prepare people though if they need to have those conversations, of course.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about you guys. What were you gonna say, Shaq?
I was gonna say, we even had somewhere like people have said like, hey, would you mind kind of like sitting on Zoom and kind of listening? Like, more than happy to. Like, we're here to help. Like, it's like, whether it's practicing the call or anything like that. And it's not in the sense of being confrontational. It's just like you may not feel comfortable having that conversation, right? And so it's nice to have someone there with you sometimes if you can.
Yeah, I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for the high school athletes coming up, some of the younger ones, it may be a little bit more figured out by the time they get there. I would imagine, right? Or not even. No.
You like to think that. You'd love to think that.
Yeah.
But I would have said the same thing in 2021. Like, you'd like to think that by the time this next year comes through, we'll be good. And somehow it got more confusing.
It did, yeah. Are there any other like settlements or like lawsuits out there that could impact this at all?
I think the Johnson case is a really big one. I'd be lying if I could sit here and tell you that like I know everything about it, but I believe it's Johnson versus NCAA, and I think that one deals with employment, which will be a really big piece of this.
That's you're right. Yeah, I remember. Is that the one that the Dartmouth kids started, or is this separate?
So this is separate. The Dartmouth men's basketball team unionized. They made it through there, and then I think because of the political climate, decided to pull back because a ruling at the NLRB level was less likely to happen. Like, it is. And again, I'm regurgitating what smart people have said to me about these things. I'm no legal
allegedly expert. I don't know. Throw some words in there. So like,
exactly. Yeah, this is not legal advice.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on, and to your point, like, we cover as much as we possibly can. We're not lawyers. You guys obviously give as much advice as you possibly can, but you have more of the legal staff, team, people to help out others and everything else. So it's good to know if you're a current college athlete, you guys have them. And then if you're an upcoming, high schooler, please look to athletes.org when you start to get into this position. Are you guys currently working with high school athletes? Is that something in the pipeline, or, what's the deal with that? Just so our listeners can kind of know.
So you want to take it? You want me to go?
Go for it.
Okay. High school athletes can sign up for Athletes.org. Age 16 or older, you can sign up for AO. You don't have access to all of the same resources as college athletes, but the main thing we wanted to make sure you had access to was those contract reviews. So you can go in there and you can actually see the lawyers. You can reach out, because we know that a lot of cases they're signing these school agreements. I don't even know what we're calling them anymore. I almost said NLI. I don't know if it's that anymore, but they're signing these before they step on campus. So it'd be tough news to have to wait until you get on campus to get your contract review that you've already signed.
Yeah. And then, Zoe, I know we already brought it up earlier before we started recording, but the Alex Cooper stuff that came out, like, total bombshell. Have you watched the documentary yet?
I haven't, but obviously feel for her, and that is just horrifying.
Absolutely. And do you guys deal with like situations of any sort of like coach abuse or helping athletes through anything like that in particular?
Yeah, I feel like most of the stuff we deal with, we keep anonymous or confidential just to protect the athlete. And our network, they go directly to the expert or the person in the network, so we don't even see all the details. We just kind of serve as a gateway for the athlete to reach out, or they can come to us and we can make sure things stay confidential just so they feel as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, I think that's another big thing that we align on, obviously, because we have the coach ratings and everything. They're anonymous, but then we also deal with a lot of people who do want to come public about their stories. The University of Akron soccer coach just got fired for basically like ignoring injuries for a lot of the athletes. They did an HR investigation and they kind of determined that that was true. And one of the athletes came forward to us and said, hey, like, she's gone, I'm in a different school, I'd love to just like share the story so it doesn't happen to anybody else. So we have both, but I would say primarily, to your point, it's anonymous and trying to help the athlete kind of make sure that they don't feel any sort of backlash, which it seemed like from the clips that I've seen, because I haven't watched it yet, but it seems like Alex Cooper, that was a big thing that she was really worried about. She's a Division I athlete, she's on scholarship, she's worried that if she goes to people or says anything, you know, she's going to get her scholarship revoked. Then they finally went, and then it seemed like the outcome was non-existent. So I think she ended up quitting. So really horrible situation, but I wanted to kind of highlight that you guys cover a lot of different things. It's not just legal side. It's the mental health side. It's kind of everything that you have in your pockets, which I think is great. You know, I think this is something that's totally needed, especially right now more than ever. I mean, it's always been needed, right? But there's so much uncertainty with what's happening. Do you guys see any like overall threat to a certain sport as a whole, or do you think it's really going to depend school to school when it comes to the house settlement stuff?
I think it's going to depend school to school, right? Some of these schools are like, and this is a really unique example, but like Ohio State, like they're, at least the number I saw most recently was like it's doing $250 million a year in like revenue, but they also have a ton of sports, right? So then maybe you have someone else who has less money coming in every year, but they have less sports too. So those look very differently. Two schools I saw over the last couple of days, I believe it was UCLA. There's someone else I'm forgetting, and I apologize if UCLA was wrong, but two schools are taking in private capital to be able to fund these things. Other schools may opt not to take on private capital and just remove sports instead. So there's really no uniform solution or no uniform path anyone's following right now. People are just doing different things school to school. And we've heard from some athletes that they've been notified, like, hey, if this happens, your sport may go away. That same sport at another school in the same conference may be totally fine. And so I think that we'll see a lot of patchwork decisions being made over the next couple months heading into July next school year.
And I know FSU had sold their athletic department to a private equity firm, I believe, which was an interesting deal. I'm not even really sure the specifics of how that technically works and everything, but to your point, I think everyone's going to try everything and then see what works, and then it'll just become the norm, right? Whatever works best to an extent. So it's fascinating to see where the next 10 years of college athletics are going to go. But I will give the floor to you guys. I'll let each of you answer. I'll do two quick questions. Number one is one piece of advice you have for anyone that is a high schooler going into college to play college athletics. So I'll let each of you answer. Zoe, you go first, and then Shaq can go second.
Oh, sheesh. I'm gonna get real deep here, but I would just say to be authentically yourself. It's so easy on a team to compare yourself, especially as a female athlete, how people look and everything they do, and especially just comparing your performance. But it's really crucial just to be yourself, because there's no one else like that, and you were brought onto your team to do just that.
Awesome. That's great.
Mine would be, and I think it's the same advice, just maybe sounds a little different. It's just do as much as you can before you get to college, before you make the decision on it, to really understand your values and who you are, and what you want out of college. At that age, it happened to me, it happened to everyone, I'm sure. Those things are going to change all the time, but try to have yourself rooted in something that's going to help you decide on where you go to school. Because for some people, going to school based on the money may be the best decision. For some people, going to school based on the education, like everyone's situation is different, but make sure you go into it with a plan for what you want out of it and the values that you want to make sure are upheld through it. Because there's so much happening right now that you can get distracted in a heartbeat and turn what could be a great opportunity into a really negative experience. So I think try to make the most of it. And that's tougher now than ever, I think, because of how many potential distractions and roadblocks and hurdles there are along the way. So try to do what you can to understand your values and who you want, what you want out of college, and then lean into people along the way that can help you get there.
Awesome. And then my last question is advice for college athletes going into career, starting to think about jobs and everything else. What's your number one piece of advice for them? And we'll do Shaq this time first and then Zoe, because I don't want to put you on the spot 2 times in a row. That's not nice.
I'd say for that one, for that, I'd say don't leave everything you learned in college in your sport in college at your sport. Like your work ethic, your attention to detail, all of those things will serve you well professionally. And so don't forget about those. Keep those going with you, and then chase your passion the same way you chase your sport, and you'll be in a great spot because of it.
Awesome.
That's good. I would say use your resources and use you being a college athlete when you're there. Anyone will take a meeting with you. So build up your LinkedIn, build up your social media. That's kind of what I did. And that's how I've met some of the people I've met. And it's given me opportunities that I probably couldn't have done myself. I actually definitely couldn't have given myself. So really just push that. If you want to work for Good Molecules, you can find the person in partnerships at Good Molecules and reach out to them directly on LinkedIn. And I'm sure that they would take a call with you because you're a college athlete.
Yeah. Guys, great pieces of advice. We love it. If an athlete's interested, I know obviously go to athletes.org, but any like socials or anything you guys want to kind of shout out like that you're big on?
Yes. So we are athletes.org, obviously, and then we're athletes.org or at athletes.org on really every other platform. And then feel free to reach out to us once you're signed up. We have a community, so you can text us back, or you can always just DM or email us at membership@athletes. What is it, Shaq? That's horrible. Membership
at athletes.org. Membership at athletes.org.
Let's put that. Or email us at membership@athletes.org.
That's not on you. You never have to email us. You know, you don't have to email our AO account. So that's not on you. That's not on you.
And then for anybody listening, we'll put all this information in the actual article below so people can kind of just click directly through that. But I always like to talk about it because people learn differently. So some people want to read, some people want to hear. So here we are. All right, guys, thanks so much for your time. And it was a pleasure talking to you. I'm happy that we're, all aligned on helping athletes and kind of, spearheading that whole thing. So power to you guys. And obviously, I'm sure in the next year, we'll probably have you guys on again. So I'll talk to you guys soon.
Y'all keep crushing it too. Like, it's absolutely awesome. I've looked at all the ratings, everything on your site. I wish that existed when I was in college, because it's funny now. When I was in high school and going to college, that's an incredible resource to be able to have. And then also while I was in college, but an incredible resource to be able to have and go see what other athletes are saying. Our CEO talks about it all the time. He's like, I had a rating when I was in 8th grade, and coaches and scouts are reviewing me. How is it that I don't know anything about these people that I'm trying to go play for? So really cool what you're doing to keep crushing it.
Awesome. Thanks.